Hello, everyone. You can hear me. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully you're having a great day so far. Thank you so much. We are the Digital Asset Investment Trends panel. Hopefully you've had a fantastic day and ready to learn some more insights about digital assets. So I've got a fantastic panel with me today. First, we've got Hendrik from Apollo Capital. We also have Jamie Kennedy from OKX. And we also have Eric Chow from BetterX. We were having a chat backstage just now, and we've got some good things to tell you, so be ready. First and foremost, I want to make this a little bit more exciting, a little bit more fun. Hendrik, can you tell us a little bit more, maybe a fun fact? Let's start off with that. I'm throwing this, by the way, to you. A fun fact. And also let us know, how did you get into the digital asset investment space as well?
Yeah, a fun fact related to digital asset might be that I missed out on the Ethereum ICO. So I actually got into Bitcoin in 2013. I was working on Wall Street. I worked 15 years in traditional finance. Got really excited about Bitcoin as a breakthrough in computer science. And I started following the space very, very closely at that time. But somehow, I saw this very young Russian guy named Vitalik, that this crazy ICO about this kind of new paradigm doing smart contracts. And I didn't believe it at the time. So I don't know if that's a fun fact or a sad fact.
No, it's a fun fact. I was just saying backstage, I was living in Canada at the time, and I was hearing a lot about Vitalik as well in 2014. I actually have an Instagram picture of me saying, should I buy Bitcoin? And I have to say, one of the biggest regret I have in life is that I didn't buy it 10 years ago. So yeah. So tell us about how you got into the space.
So I kind of started following the space very closely 11 years ago in 2013. And saw this as a new paradigm in, basically a breakthrough in computer science, kind of enabling true ownership of digital assets. We saw the launch of Ethereum and smart contracts and what they could do for mainly decentralized finance. And then sort of started to realize that this is a new investment class, or basically a new way to invest as well. And in 2017, started Apollo Crypto here in Australia as one of the first firms in Australia focusing on digital assets. So I've been doing that for the last 6-7 years.
And I met Hendrik in about 2017, so we go way back. Welcome, thank you. Jamie, tell us your fun fact. He's just a little bit thrown off, that's okay. But tell us your fun fact.
Well, at least I had some spare time to think of my fun fact. And this might be, a little bit about how I got into crypto as well. But I grew up on a farm. So I grew up 3.5 hours west of Sydney. And so I really got into crypto when I was working for government, so Treasury in Canberra. And one of the things I was working on was the review of ICOs. This is probably a while back now. And so if you go and read that paper, there are some farm-themed examples in there. So see if you can spot those and you can guess which ones I wrote.
So all the farm ones are you then?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll do a Where's Wally on that then. Tell us, how did you get into crypto, or how did you get into digital assets?
Yeah, not as far back as 2013. That's quite a Bitcoin OG there. But at the time, I studied economics and finance. And then, when I was, as all good economists do, you trundle off to work for the Treasury or the RBA. And we were sort of looking at this thing called Bitcoin, I guess, at the time. So this would have been around 2017, as a whole bunch of ICOs were coming out. I just found it fascinating because we're sort of taught in sort of ordinary economics that inflation is good, maybe not the level of inflation that we're seeing right now, but some inflation is good. Yet here was sort of an economic system where it was deflationary. And so it was just very interesting that people are looking more and more into this asset, despite conventional wisdom and training telling us it's probably not the right way to go.
Fantastic. Eric, would you like to share what your fun fact is? You've had loads of time to think about it now.
I used to be an industrial designer. Studied that in university. One thing that got me into crypto, kind of back to my roots, was the application of technology and how it's applied in the market. So digital asset isn't any different to any other type of new technologies. You're literally taking one application and applying it to a new industry or a new trend. That's a bit of fun fact, but I got into crypto 2017-18. Our largest shareholder, Aura Group, they started an OTC trading desk, which they seeded. We're basically trading for high net worth clients. Fast forward to where we are today, we're a platform as a service, which offers businesses, institutions, and companies a gateway to offer crypto to their clients. So that's how I got into crypto.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. So we're here to talk about trends and looking into your crystal ball to the panel. What do you see as the next big trends that you see in development that you believe will significantly impact investors in this space? Potentially, how should they position themselves to benefit from these changes as well? So Henrik, what do you think are the big trends?
So one big trend I see is kind of making it much easier for retail to onboard to crypto, because it can be quite hard today. I think a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the scaling solutions have been built out. A lot of decentralized finance have been built out. Bitcoin has been around for a long time, but it's still kind of hard for kind of the average person to interact with crypto. So I think there's a lot of development happening in that space at the moment. So you have seen something called smart wallets. Coinbase is working on Coinbase Smart Wallet. They're looking to onboard a lot of people onto that technology, which will make it much easier kind of to set up a wallet, to back up your wallet, and those kind of things. Here in Australia, there's a company called Infinex that is working on using passkeys instead of seed phrases, making it much easier to onboard to a crypto account, if you like, because the goal of this industry is to onboard people to decentralized systems. And so far, most retail participants have been using centralized exchanges instead of the solutions that exist in the decentralized world. But to be able to kind of onboard hundreds of millions of people, we need much better solutions to do that. So that's a trend that I'm seeing, a lot of things happening in that space at the moment. So that's, I think, is super exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, because one of the hardest things is to try and get, like, in terms of more mass audiences to come in, you have to make it an easy process, right? So that's definitely an important trend and development. What about you, Jamie? What do you think is the biggest trend or development?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and somewhat related to Henrik's point as well. I think obviously we're a centralized exchange, but ultimately at the end of the day, we see ourselves more of a Web3 play, I guess. So I think we're sort of seeing where things are going to go to is people are going to be interacting with digital assets and with crypto from both a centralized and a decentralized perspective, but not really, not knowing that they're operating in the decentralized in sort of field. And that goes to things like Henrik was saying, like smart account, smart wallets. These are sort of products that we're building out as well. And I think, for us, we do see a move towards, I guess, decentralization. But centralized exchanges, I think, our view is they'll still continue to play a role in the broader ecosystem. You're still bumping it up against traditional financial rails, for example, and you're still sort of having to interact a little bit with that side of the world. And things, for example, like zero knowledge KYC. I think there's probably a panel later on today which will probably delve more into that as well. So the analogy I give, if we talk about Wally, it's like, how do I prove that I know where Wally is without actually showing where Wally is, right? Which is sort of a simple analogy for zero knowledge proofs. These are the sorts of things that we're sort of looking at exploring and looking at building, and that we think will probably, end up in a world where people are interacting with digital assets, but not necessarily knowing if it's centralized, decentralized. It's all just one big ecosystem.
Fantastic. I'm going to be thinking about that. Where's Wally analogy now? Eric, what do you think is the biggest development?
Yeah, so probably would have seen it out in media, but RWA, so real world assets, basically being tokenized. I think that's going to have a major impact on how we all operate. So whether it fits from financial services to assets that we currently own, things that and trends that I think we'll need to really pick up on is the regulatory side, but also reporting how the assets are stored. So fractionalized assets, who's storing what, how's it being stored, how's all the reporting going to be broken down. All of that, I think, will have a big impact, and that's a huge trend at the moment. On the higher end of town, so most of the large investment banks and banks over in the States have already incorporated some form of digital assets into their ecosystem. A lot of it's still behind the scenes, but a lot of it is and related to RWAs, which is real world assets at the moment. So that's a huge trend that we're seeing in the market.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of talk about property, right? It's definitely one
Property,
thing.
private debt. So even ourselves, we've got a pipeline of about 50 mil of private debt that we're tokenizing for one of our pilot customers. We've done gold and silver as well, and we've also looked at luxury goods. So yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, Australia wants to be recognised as a crypto and blockchain ecosystem country. So I do think it's fantastic, but it's also lagging as well. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about that. So where do you see Australia succeeding, and where are we lagging in comparison to the rest of the world? And where do you think the most opportunities are?
So we've actually seen a lot of activity in Australia. A lot of exchanges, for example. We have two kind of representatives here on the panel today on that side. We have seen a lot of projects as well coming out of Australia. I think, and we have kind of the 4 banks, many of them kind of playing around with AUD stable coins, things like that, but they actually haven't launched anything that is kind of live for the public. And I think one reason is probably uncertainty and sort of regulation and uncertainty around that. So I think if the government kind of really wanted to kind of have the innovation happening here in Australia, then we need more clarity on that side, because that's probably what's stopping, for example, the banks launching AUD stablecoins and other players in the industry. And actually, we have gone sort of backwards in the last 12 months, I think. I think it's very hard now to transfer money to crypto exchanges if you want to buy crypto. I think almost all the banks kind of put caps on transferring money to crypto exchanges and things like that. So it's actually been getting harder to on-ramp into crypto. So unfortunately, we are going the wrong way at the moment.
Is there any positives? Like, do you see any opportunities or anything that we've done well?
Again, we have seen a lot of innovation coming out of Australia. When you look at projects coming from Australia, I think many people are not aware of how many projects and what kind of activity we have coming out of Australia. So I think we've been doing really well compared to the overall population in Australia to kind of what we have kind of launched from Australia. So we've done a really good job, but with the right kind of regulation, I think we could do much better as well.
Yeah, I think we've got some really good projects and teams here. It's just probably some more regulatory advice. Shame you're not in the Treasury anymore, Jamie. You could be leading that. But what do you think we should be like in terms of Australia? What are we good at? What do we need to be better at? What are the opportunities?
Yeah, definitely more fun being on the other side. No, I think I would probably echo Henrik's point a little bit in that we do have a lot of good projects and a lot of good builders in Australia that are doing very interesting projects. I guess a little bit like the Olympics, we tend to punch above our weight when it comes to sort of projects and development.
18 gold medals.
18 gold medals. in sort of the development capability that we have in Australia. So there are a lot of projects out there you wouldn't know are actually founded by Australians. I think as a sort of new exchange coming to the market, some of the challenges I guess we're sort of facing in terms of launching that Australian dollar backed product is this sort of regulatory uncertainty that we've got, which as we look forward, we'll probably see some sort of regulatory framework come through in the next 12 months. And really, we're hoping that sort of gives a bit more clarity to the industry as well and the market participants. And hopefully makes the banking situation better for everyone that's involved. But yeah, like just to reiterate, I think where the really big challenge opportunities are depth of projects. I think potentially the unfortunate side of this sort of regulatory uncertainty is you do often see these Australian founders then moving to overseas jurisdictions. So you can sort of see some of the benefits that regulation brings, where some of them are moving to places like Singapore, or they're moving to places like Dubai, where they're bringing these sort of regulatory frameworks. So I think that in itself presents a whole bunch of both opportunities and challenges for the sector.
Yeah. Why do we always lose our best, athletes, musicians, actors, scientists? Anyways, Eric, what do you think about, opportunities,
Yeah.
successes and...
I think back to one of Hendrik's points around identity and KYC, I think that's a huge opportunity for us, but it's actually been really unfortunate as well with all the recent hacks around, Medibank, Optus, but it has pushed the government to push basically the national identity framework forward. And a lot of players are looking into that pretty seriously now to basically accelerate onboarding and KYC. One of the biggest issues with banks and why they block crypto is because of scams. Most of the, transactions related to scams are unfortunately crypto related, but then you've got guys like us who are the players who want to do right in the industry and also want to do well. But I think that's a huge opportunity for Australia to basically accelerate up on the KYC front. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go through that because I think the scams are really interesting. It's said that Australia lost 1.3 billion with a B dollars last year in phishing and investment scams. ASIC has announced it's taken down 615 cryptocurrency investment scams in the last year, which is about 9% of all phishing and investment scams in total. I think scams could be an issue in this space. And how do you see the regulatory landscape, because we were talking a bit about that, in Australia and globally impacting digital investments? Potentially you can talk about scams, but what should investors be mindful of? Henrik?
Yeah, I think the vehicles are becoming better, right? So it's getting easier to access the crypto asset market. So I think will kind of partly solve things, right? So in the US, we got the first spot Bitcoin ETFs in January of this year. So that's a much easier way to onboard a lot of people to this asset class. It's been the most successful ETF launch ever of any kind of ETF. So we've seen around $17 billion worth of inflows into the Bitcoin spot ETFs so far this year. And we recently got the Ethereum spot ETFs approved as well in the States. So I think that kind of clarity helps a lot. The industry has been working already 10 years plus to make that happen. And I think that's a watershed moment because now financial advisors can much easier allocate money into crypto assets. And we'll soon see kind of model portfolios being constructed that includes Bitcoin and Ethereum allocations. And that will happen through these ETFs. So I think that's one way kind of where regulation can help the industry move forward.
Great. Jamie?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one from an exchange perspective as well. And it's a challenge I think all exchanges have been facing. I think it's been a lot of good work obviously done by the regulator and also by the government with the the National Scam Centre. And so I think the opportunity here is more of that whole of industry coordination between the different, different players, be it like social media platforms or banks or crypto exchanges. And so I think that's something that, as a country, we're doing increasingly better, specifically given the significant drop in scams and losses to scams last year. As an exchange, this is always a challenge we face, and we put in place a lot of internal risk controls, and this is something that we take certainly very seriously as well. Because we are aware that the banks and certainly the regulators are very, very sensitive to scams. So I think it's a situation that is increasingly getting better over time.
Can you tell us about some of the things that you're doing from an exchange perspective?
Yeah,
putting these controls in place.
So I guess as we're learning more and more about our users, we're certainly figuring out some of the patterns that make for a good user or a user that is potentially being scammed. Even just simple things like if we a lot of this activity is happening on chain, you can actually look at where the funds are being sent to. If the funds are potentially being sent to somewhere which has been flagged as a scam address, just reaching out and saying, hey, what's with this this transaction that you're making? Are you aware that this is potentially a scam? And we should take advantages of the fact that there is transparency on the blockchain, and that we can actually see some of these transactions moving, and sort of building, I guess, blockchain native control systems around this as well.
Yeah, great. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, so one thing around crypto and scams, a lot of people associate crypto directly with scams, but it's actually the humans behind it, basically, causing the scams, not crypto or the blockchain networks. So that's pretty, I think...
telling me there's greedy people out there?
Well, basically, yeah. And in the media, a lot of it's played off as, Bitcoin's a scam, Ethereum's a scam. But I think after the approvals from the ETFs and also, your large fund managers, even like Fidelity, your balanced portfolio, you have the option to add Bitcoin in there now, right? I think it gives a big rubber stamp of approval to say that, Bitcoin and Ethereum more specifically right now are not scams or projects that are scams, because these large institutions are pouring billions of dollars into them. But I also think that the media has a huge part in playing for a lot of these victims as well. If you would have asked a lot of people 2 years ago when the market was collapsing, crypto was a scam. Now it's come back up. Crypto is a safe investment because BlackRock and all these fund managers now investing into it. So a lot of the market, and we see this through our platform as well, a lot of people get FOMO, which is fear of missing out. They get sucked into these schemes and programs, which is really unfortunate. But there's a lot of things that investors can do. So, make sure that if they're Australian-based, they're ASIC registered, AUSTRAC registered. And also, like Jamie said, the blockchain is really transparent. We have what we call KYT, which is Know Your Transactions, which is a lot more transparent than your banking SWIFT transfers.
How do you think media is to blame? In terms of, you should be scared, you should be excited?
I don't think they're to blame, but they're part of the equation because their model is for eyeballs and views, which then attract the people to get fear of missing out. And we experienced this ourselves, where people get really excited and they make irrational decisions and then they fall victim to scams, because then they come to us asking how do they resolve it, which we try, but a lot of the times it's unrecoverable.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Next is my favourite question. So I was watching the Olympics. I'm pretty sure most of the people in this room was too. 2 weeks I sat on the couch, and I've probably got an imprint on my couch. And I was wondering if there was a crypto Olympics panel, what would the name of the event or sport you would like to see, Henrik?
Yeah, Lucy, you were kind enough to give me this question in advance.
Yes, I warned you.
Actually, I asked AI about this question.
Oh.
So this answer is from Grok, fun mode.
Okay.
So Grok came up with 2 suggestions. A crypto sprint. Athletes would race to complete the transaction on the blockchain. The winner is the one who can confirm a transaction the fastest, dealing with the notorious waiting for confirmation time. So that was number one, crypto sprint. Second one, decentralized dance-off. So competitors would engage in a dance-off where the moves are dictated by the volatility of various cryptocurrencies. The more erratic the coin's price, the more wild the dance.
Oh my, I love it. That second one was one I was thinking of. You know, I gave it a name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called the block battle is
Oh,
what
wow.
I called mine.
Good one.
What do you think?
Not bad.
So I was thinking we can call it breaking. It's kind of like because, you know, breaking's only in Paris,
Australia
not in
didn't
LA.
Right?
Oh, okay, that's going to be another topic. But yeah, same thing. Like, you know, we're not doing a breaking anymore, so we can have a dance off. I think that'll be kind of cool. Jamie, did you consult AI with this question?
I did actually, but, but I don't have an AI answer for you, and I decided not to give my breaking answer either. No, I think the closest sport, which I was actually spent quite a while watching on the couch as well, that's probably the closest equivalent to how I feel this industry goes is speed climbing.
Oh, I love that sport.
Did you watch speed climbing?
Oh my God, I
Just
recorded it.
the amazing pace at which people like go up that rock wall.
Yeah.
I feel like
4.6 seconds.
I feel like that's sometimes the speed at which things get developed in this sector. Suddenly, you know, a couple of months later, this whole new trend comes out, and you know, you never heard of this, and then all of a sudden it's taken off. That's sometimes how I feel.
Yeah, crypto is like so fast. I don't know how everyone here still have hair because I tell you what, it's breakneck speed, as you say. I agree. Eric, what's your crypto Olympic sport?
Only had about 10 minutes to think about this.
Yes,
before.
he was a ring in.
So it would be called long or short, basically with crypto. You know, a lot of the tokens that are new that get launched, very highly speculative, and the sport would be able to say long or short. Yeah.
Very good. For 10-minute work, I think that is not bad. All right, final question. What keeps you excited about this industry? Henrik.
Yeah, for me, it is onboarding the next 100 million people to decentralized systems. Like, I think a lot of infrastructure, again, has been built out when it comes to kind of the layer one blockchains, the kind of the scaling solutions, and now we're getting the wallets, and kind of the goal is to make it very easy to onboard a lot of people to decentralized systems. I think it will be Bitcoin as a digital gold, stable coins for payments, and the final leg will be like kind of DeFi for decentralized finance. So onboarding kind of the next hundreds of millions of people to decentralized systems in those areas. That's what I'm super excited about.
Fantastic. Great. Jamie, what excites you?
I guess, you know, again, sort of what gets built in this space. I'm always just constantly, always, you know, the surprises that come out, I guess, for me, what keeps me in this space. I guess the change and the pace of things. And for us, as a crypto company, you know, we like to see ourselves more of, I guess, a Web3 company. And just, again, blending that centralized, decentralized mix together. And so people are continually interacting in this ecosystem without actually knowing exactly what is behind the scenes they're working with. That's sort of, yeah, where we're going.
Great. Eric?
Yeah, I'm actually very similar to Jamie. Being a founder and builder as myself, seeing what the next thing is to support the next wave of Web3 and digital assets to support everyday people, more specifically around tokenized reward assets as well. How do we fractionalize a lot of things that are reserved for, you know, certain individuals, and being able to break that down for everyday people to then be able to access? That's what really excites me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm excited to be here, and thank you all for your time and your patience. Hopefully you got as much out of our panel and discussion as we did. Yeah, I just want to thank the panel. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for being in the audience, and thank you for coming to Wholesale Investor.